one of the hardest moments also was there in the medical center. It was just the doctor and me. Center would have been closed if we went there. And after we got there, and I needed to call Kimberly, his mom. And the doctor handed me this phone, and I looked at him and I said, "What do I say?" And he looked at me and he said, "I don't know."
Yeah.
Which was the best thing he could have said, because there's no way he could, And so again, surreal. I don't know how I even said the words.
Do you remember that conversation?
Oh,
like,
yes.
were you just like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like, how did it actually start? Take us through that.
I called her phone and she didn't answer. And her mother lived with us. And so I'll try her. And so I tried her phone and I got her, and she answered the phone, and I said, "Hi." I said, "Are you with Kimberly?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "I need to talk to her." So she handed the phone to Kimberly, and they were at a store shopping.
Oh, gosh.
And she got on the phone. She's, cheerful. "Hi." And I said, "I don't know how to say this, but we've lost him." And she was like, "What?" And the first thought she had was that it was his older brother. That was just what came to her mind. No thought that it could be Keaton. I just don't know why, but that's just the thought that came to her. And she goes, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Keaton, we've lost him." Just for me to picture what that must have been like for her, to hear those words. And a little detail about that. I mean, we're a blended family, and so Keaton was our one child that we had together.
Oh, wow.
And so, and she just said, "Oh my God. Oh my God." And of course, they just walked out of the store, and we talked, and I don't remember the next part. That's where my memory ends.
Okay.
I gave her the details, and I don't remember the call ending. So that part's gone, but that was the phone call. Then, of course, all family, extended family, people, everybody that was not there came down that night, drove down.
From a logistics standpoint, you still had the houseboat out wherever, plus all the other boats. Did you have to deal with all of that? Or was it just like, I'm hopping in the truck and I'm going back home?
Thankfully, I didn't have to deal with that. Like I said, all the family on both sides, they all got together and then caravan down that night. Those of us that were there, we got a whole block there at the marina. They had a little hotel, motel. And we got a block of rooms, and once the coroner came and picked up Keaton, then we went to the motel, and somewhere during the night, everybody came to the rooms. And so the next day, there were family members that went out, took care of all the logistics, and handled all that. And we just, then we all went home that following day.
I just think it's super interesting that you said you had this like dread come upon you. It's like you already knew, but you didn't know.
I had no idea. I thought maybe it was okay. I'm going to take the houseboat in the next day. There's going to be some mishap. I'm going to kind of, wreck the houseboat or something. I didn't know what it was, but I had no thought of we're going to lose somebody.
I think it's easy for like the audience and other people to just be like, well, you should have like followed that thought or whatever. And I say it, the reason why I say that is I'm in the same place that you are, right?
Yeah.
I was racking my brain with like, why didn't I get any of these thoughts of like, don't do that? Or even like the story you presented with Keaton of like, hey, do you want to go home with your mom? Oh yeah, I could play with my friends and the Beyblades and all these things. No, I want to stay, right?
Yeah.
And your brain just racks all of those things. However, the reality is we're at where we're at. And from my perspective, I would just say it sucks that you had that like depressive or that bad feeling, but there wasn't any direction with it either. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's hard.
I appreciate you bringing that up. I actually hold it a little bit differently.
Okay.
Because the next morning at the motel, we were there and family members are together and there's some prayers and things. And I had come in my mind a visual image of a hand, which I interpret as the hand of God, but a hand taking Keaton and being with him and pulling him under the boat. And the way that I hold that is that and the feeling of dread that I had and the hawk. And this is one of those things that does not make the pain go away.
Yeah.
But there's some sort of design, some sort of purpose. This was as it was meant to be. And that those things were there as indicators to me that this was known. This was known, that this was the direction, this is what's going to happen. One of the real things that, Camille, you and I have related on is that we were the drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's, as a parent in general, and I'll just speak as a father, job number one is protect your children. That's my role.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And I was the one that created the waves, that bounced him out, that took his life. And so I had to go through a lot of wrestling with that, a lot of holding of that. And the fact that I had these signs, if you will, that this was coming, it's given me comfort and helped me to realize that it needed to be that way. And there's been some spiritual experiences since that, it had to be this way. This was the design. This was the plan. And I don't know why I would have agreed to any such thing. What was I thinking? But I just as my own spiritual belief, I hold that we have participation, co-creation in the experiences that we go through here, the things that we encounter. So to me, that dread was not a warning to get me to do something different.
Yeah.
It was more of this is not just some random chance accident that just happened for no reason. That's how that is held in my heart and my mind.
Thank you. And my comment on it wasn't necessarily that's my view of it either.
I understand.
It's that from like an external, I could see how people would be like, oh, why didn't you X, Y? And it's like, well, there wasn't any direction with it. Mm-hmm. And if anything, like you're saying, it's your soul, your being almost knew that there was going to be this thing that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So how did you deal with Keaton's loss, like the weeks after, the months after? How'd you cope with all that?
Well, as you know, at first time is just, it's all changes and it's minute by minute, but the minutes are hours and hours are minutes. Mm-hmm. And it's really a strange thing.
Yeah.
That feeling of this can't be real lasted for quite a while. surreal, unreal, not real. I just remember, no, damn it, no. It just, the denial, couldn't wrap my head around it, even though I was living it. Yeah. Just not even able to wrap my head around it. I don't know why I did this or where it came from, but I just had a knowing within myself that my path was to face it fully.
What do you mean by face it fully?
If this was a cup, so to speak, of experience that I had to drink, I was going to drink every drop. I wasn't going to distract myself. I wasn't going to numb myself. I was going to be fully in it. If I had to go through this hellish experience, then I wanted every bit of it. And that's not saying that's the right way to do it or anything. There's no right or wrong. And that can be overwhelming. I spent hours and days sitting in his room, just sitting, working through, feeling, grieving, just in the depths of it. I was in a position with work where I didn't have to go in because I was one of the owners and I could spend time. So I had that blessing, but it was, I embraced it.
Did that break down over a period of time, business wise, that you were owner? This whole thing happened. Or were they fine with you, like taking your time?
They were
to
fine
do stuff?
with me taking my time, and then there came a point. To be honest with you, I couldn't tell you how long it was. Where I'd start to go in a little bit, and start to re-engage. So that happened there. A real part of my experience, though, was that I've always wanted to be in life. I'm not, I've enjoyed living. I had no interest in being here anymore after Keaton died.
Yeah.
I had 6 other kids, a wife, family. And so I didn't tell anybody this. I didn't want them to feel bad, like, oh, they're not as important and all those things. But it didn't. Yes, they were. And I wanted to be here for them. But I just didn't have any interest in living anymore, in doing life. I didn't have any inclination to harm myself.
Yeah.
But I just didn't care anymore. And during the those months, I remember reading a lot of books, anything I could find on people who had visionary experiences with life before this life or life after this life or just anything. I just wanted to read, what is there? I had my own beliefs, but now I was like, are my beliefs even real? I don't know what's real anymore. And so I was desperate for anything. And so I would read and I would be in it. Had some counseling from somebody that we knew. And one of the things I remember the counselor saying was that these types of things there's a high percentage of divorce after losing a child. And he cautioned us or advised us to let us have our own experience. I responded to it differently. I wanted to talk. I wanted to engage with people because I wanted to process and get insight and anything to find comfort, just grasping for comfort.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Kimberly, on the other hand, she didn't want anything to do with people. She just wanted to be in her own space. So we did things differently, which is great. I remember, though, a couple months afterwards, we stopped to get something to eat. And I was sharing with her my latest insight, some pearl of comfort that I thought. And she finally looked at me, and she doesn't remember saying it this way, but she looked, as I remember it, she looked at me and goes, "You have got to stop."
Yeah.
I was like, she goes, I'm not feeling what you're saying. It doesn't resonate with me. I don't want to hear it. You've got to stop. And of course, my feelings were a little bit hurt in the moment. And I was just like, okay, I can do that. And I didn't retort to it or anything. I just said, okay. And just, ego was bruised a little bit. I'm just trying to be a good, husband and trying to, my intention is, but it wasn't landing. So I just, that's fine.
The story doesn't end here. This is just a small segment of the entire podcast. If you want to check out that full podcast, tap or click the screen here. YouTube also thinks you might like this video. Remember, subscribe, shine bright, and we'll see you in the next video.